So the United States has a long-standing tradition of avoiding rehabilitation in favor of long-term incarceration. So the United States has the world's largest prison population. I want you to think about that for a second. We are supposedly the greatest nation on earth, a city on a hill, the beacon of freedom, but yet the United States of America has the largest prison population on the planet. We have the highest per capita incarceration rate, with approximately 2 million people incarcerated in our American prison system. The United States of America represents 20% of the entire globe's prison population. That number is absolutely staggering. That number far exceeds any other developed nation on the planet. When the United States adopted private prisons and private jails, mass incarceration has accelerated. And it's been fed on things like the war on drugs, mandatory minimum sentencing laws. Our prison population has grown over 700% between 1972 and 2009, with Black Americans incarcerated at a rate nearly 5 times that of white Americans. Low-income communities have been especially hit hard, and about 2/3 of all the people in the state prisons lack a high school diploma. But these private prisons are a money-making machine. They're a revolving door. They bring people in, and then they find ways to either keep them in or to reoffend on a constant cycle. Our annual spending on prisons is over $80 billion a year. Over $80 billion a year. And the private prison industry has become a significant economic force. And then once you're in the system, you're kind of screwed, because when you get out, there are not very many options especially for felons in the job market, and even a lot of misdemeanors. So a lot of these people are getting out on the streets and have nowhere to turn, no viable economic future. It's increasingly harder and harder for them to get work and to find gainful employment. And here's some more concerning statistics for you to think about. That 1 in 3 Black men will be imprisoned at some point in time in their lifetime. And Latino Americans are more likely to be incarcerated at a rate of 1.3 times than their white American counterparts. We have become, in the United States, a prison industrial complex. We lead the world in incarcerations. We have fallen so far behind in education, in healthcare, anything that is good, but yet we are the leaders when it comes to imprisoning our own citizens. And most of our public defenders, the people that are supposed to be helping and defending these people who have been arrested and who have been charged, are overworked, they're underpaid, they're understaffed. And a majority of the time, people are pleading guilty to crimes that they didn't even commit, just so they don't have to sit and wait forever for a trial. I want you to think about that. They would rather plead guilty to a crime that they didn't even do than have to sit in jail and wait out for their court dates. The average annual income of most people prior to arrest and going into the prison system is only $19,000. Think about that, $19,000 for an annual salary. And so yes, economics plays a huge part into what's happening here in the United States and our prison systems. So we have a lack of education, we have a lack of economic resources that leads to more and more people doing small, petty crimes to make it by. Think about this. Less than half of all incarcerated people in our prison system even have a GED. Less than half. And many of the prisons around the country have cut educational programs for inmates. And of course, that lack of education, that lack of financial resources just creates this in and out effect where guys are going in and women are going in, they're getting out, reoffending, they're coming back into the system. It's a perpetual cycle that just keeps going and going. And yet, our government doesn't want to seem to address the underlying issues that are destroying our society. They don't want to address the wage gaps. They don't want to address a living wage for the citizens. They don't want to address the issue of lack of education. In fact, they are trying to cut education at every chance that they can get. Here's a statistic that blew my mind, that women are the fastest growing segment of the prison population. Women. About 80% of incarcerated women are mothers. 80% of these women that we are putting behind bars have children. Almost 3 million children in the United States of America have an incarcerated parent. 3 million children. Some of them, both parents are in jail. Sometimes it's the mom who's in jail. For others, it's the dad in jail. But we know for a fact how devastating a single parent household can be. We have the data. And one of the other things that really pisses me off about our prison system, especially because it's mostly these private prisons around the country, that over 37% of our inmate population has mental health issues. Think about that. 37% of inmates have mental health issues. Do mental health patients need to be put into a private prison, a for-profit prison? I don't think that prison is the appropriate place to be putting people with mental health issues. How is this a benefit to society? So many people with mental health issues are getting arrested, and instead of being sent to a treatment facility, we're sending them to our for-profit prisons. This is unbelievable. In a civilized society, this is what we are doing with people who are mentally sick, rather than sending them to a treatment facility where they can get help. We are sending them to the black hole of our prison systems, where they are more likely to be abused by other inmates, and they are more likely to be abused by staff, and they are definitely not getting the proper help that they need. We have failed them. We have got to do something different in this country. We have got to get rid of these private prisons. All of our prisons and our jails should be run by our state and local governments. Our prisons should not be a way for corporations to get wealthy. They have no incentive to decrease the prison population, but they have every incentive to keep people incarcerated. So they have more incentive to cause people to lose their good time, more incentive to keep tacking on additional charges, especially when you think about that almost half of our inmates, damn near half, it's incredible, have mental health issues, and yet we're locking them behind bars. The United States of America has got to do something to deal with this issue and stop sweeping it under the rug. It doesn't get talked about enough. Our congressmen don't speak about it. Our representatives don't speak about it. Our Senate doesn't speak about it. And I'm damn sure our presidents are not talking about it. They are not talking about how these corporate CEOs are privatizing our inmate population and keeping them in a forever cycle of in and out, with no incentive to release them because they get money from the taxpayer for having the inmates behind their bars, their jails, their prisons. They have deals for the food that comes in, deals for the uniforms that come in. All of this shit. For-profit prisons should not be a thing in the United States of America. Should not be a thing in a civilized fucking society. But I don't know how we can call ourselves a civilized society when we have the highest incarceration rate on the planet. On the planet. Think about some of the other countries. We're worse than Saudi Arabia. We're worse than Russia. We're worse than North Korea. We're worse than China. It is mind-numbing to think at how bad and how high our population of inmates really is in this country. We have got to change the laws. We have to change the sentencing laws. A lot of these crimes are ridiculous, and we shouldn't be sending people to prison for a lot of these crimes. A lot of these crimes are harmless and petty. Our prisons should have been designed for real hardened criminals, murderers, rapists, things like that. Not some dude slinging a bag of weed so that he can get diapers for his kids or any of that bullshit. If you have non-violent crimes, there's no reason to be in a prison system the way that it is set up. I don't know what all of the answers are, but I do know that for-profit prisons are a ridiculous idea. They don't belong in a civilized society. And America needs to tackle this head on. The United States has got to make some changes because we can't keep being the incarceration capital of the world. And yet we point our finger in everybody else's face, telling them what kind of democracy they need, what kind of freedoms they need. Yet we lock up all of our own citizens at an alarming rate in for-profit prisons that never want to let them out. If you have never thought about the for-profit prison system in the United States, I would encourage you to go research that on your own. Look at the data. Look at our incarceration rate here in the United States. Let's get the conversation going and continuing, and we should be bringing this up to our representatives and to our senators and try to get something changed in this country, because we can't be the leader of the world of the prison population. That is a horrible stat, and it's a blot on the United States. Grim with Get the Rant, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.